Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of The Language of Leadership. I'm your host, Chuck Marty. There have been a lot of times during the times that we've done this podcast that I've had a lot of different thoughts on a lot of different things, a lot of it coming from emails that you've given me, also from guests that we've had on the podcast. And I do have some invitations out to some really, truly significant people that I would like to have on here as guests to be able to address and speak to you on things that I feel are really important for your leadership journey. But one of the things that I have caught myself doing in the last few weeks is saying a phrase that I've often heard other leaders say as well. And that is when somebody comes up to you and they say, "How you doing?" or "What's going on?" And my response has been at times, "I'm going crazy," or "This is just nuts," things like that. So sometimes it's because of the situation that you're in or the different things that you're dealing with at that moment in time that you may feel like you're going crazy. You know, there's a quote that I'm going to share with you from Dwight D. Eisenhower, and it says that the older I get, the more wisdom I find in the ancient rule of taking first things first, a process which often reduces the most complex human problems to a manageable proportion. So when I think of this, what I am trying to explain, and I hope this comes across well in this podcast. This was something that I thought about as I was driving home and wanted to address because I've been trying to break this habit for the last couple weeks now of uh, being in that state of mind where I feel like when somebody asks me how I'm doing, that I feel like I have to tell them that I'm going crazy. You know, when I'm thinking about several different things all at the same time, and instead of just picking one that I could probably summarize for somebody really quick to let them know what's going on, at least at that point, um, it's real easy to just clump it all together and say, "I'm going crazy," or "I'm going nuts." And so I think that's one of the reasons why so many of us do that. And then when I was analyzing that, I have found other leaders who have said the same thing. And so I'm kind of mimicking what I've been told by other people who are really busy and they have several different hats that they're wearing. And so when I've asked them, "Hey, how you doing, man?" "Wow, I'm just freaking going crazy, Chuck. I don't know what the hell's going on with things right now. People are just nuts." I can relate. I often feel that way as well. But I wonder if there's a better way of doing it. And the reason why I ask that is because a lot of that is our own positive self talk. And we start believing what we're saying. And so when you're constantly saying those type of things that you're going nuts or you're going crazy, then you will go nuts and you will go crazy with things. Believe me, I have found myself in the last few months in that exact same spot. I think the key to that is analyzing and realizing that that's what you're doing and that you're doing it to yourself. Now, how does that affect you as a leader when you're dealing with your team? Well, a lot of times we'll have our teams come to us and they'll ask you a question. And what is the response that you may give them, which is pretty common, is, "Hey, I'll get back with you," or "Let me take care of this and I'll get back with you." Unfortunately, there are times when people have said those things to us that they need some of our attention. And we may be busy and we may have good intentions of getting back to that person, but it never happens. I am just as guilty as a leader doing that with my team and to my own clients at times, and then justifying it because of how busy I am. I have learned through coaching and through my mastermind that the easiest way for me to overcome this is to slow down, to stop, and to analyze what is going on around me. The other thing is when I do have a team member that comes to me and they're coming to me over a certain circumstance or situation, or they're just wanting some of my time, I need to stop and analyze what's going on, listen to that employee, and then respond. I have found that sometimes I'm awful quick to come back with a response to this individual and have the good intention of coming back to them. But I get so wrapped up, I didn't hear what it was that this individual wanted to talk to me about. I didn't give them the time to make that impression on me to realize how important it was to them, even my own clients, to be able to respond back. So, what is the perception that comes back? Maybe it's I'm too busy that I don't have time for that person, or I'm way too busy to get back to that individual, that client. And so they just kind of move on and they'll deal with it. They'll be polite about it. But what it all boils down to is I didn't give them the time or the recognition that they deserve or they needed at that point. So, what I'm wanting to do is I want to kind of address some of that and try and figure out a different way of responding to that because it is embarrassing. It isn't the person that I want to be. It's definitely not the leadership style that I want people to think that I have. And I sure don't want my team to feel that they're not important to me. I read in Inc. magazine an article that said that most of your employees, when you have an employee that does leave, one of the complaints that they have is that they didn't have guidance direction. They didn't have people that acted like they cared about them or that they even acknowledged them while at work. Well, that kind of lumps into what I'm talking about right now. Is that the perception that we're giving that person? A lot of times it is. I'm guilty of it too. Okay. So what do we do to turn that around? And I've looked at people like Ed Milet that we've talked about, Andy Frisella, looking at David Cook, looking at people like that, John C. Maxwell, okay, or Jack Canfield, and even leaders like Andrew Carnegie, older leaders. And one of the things that I really admired about Andrew Carnegie is that whenever he did a project with somebody and they started a company or they started a venture, he always put that person's name before his. He always acknowledged them. He always wanted them to feel that he wasn't trying to usurp authority over them or that he was any better than they were. He made it a point to build that person up and to let them know how valuable they were with to him, and that was why he wanted to go into a partnership or a venture or to address certain things with that individual. And he recognized those talents and those things within those leaders, and I think that's incredible. It shows how important people are to you, because if it wasn't for people, none of us would be leaders. We would have nobody to lead. So we need to understand who those people are, what their strengths are. And I have found that also when I feel like I am overwhelmed with this, and I've talked to my wife about this as well, because she has a very active role in our businesses that we have, that we have to take the time to delegate some of those things. And that causes you as a leader to have to analyze individuals that are working for you that would be great at taking on those tasks. Some of them may be happy that you gave it to them. Some of them, this is what they love doing. And we're not giving them the opportunity to excel at something that they feel they're really good at and can be recognized for. And the most important thing is I am robbing myself of time that I could be using to do things that need to be done and need to be addressed because I feel like I got to do it all. And you have to get away from that. So Delegate little things to people, delegate projects to people, let them excel at those things. And sometimes we're worried about people screwing things up or that they're going to make mistakes. I just hired two fabulous new people. We had over 80 applicants for a couple positions that we had, which was incredible. And we had some really good people apply. And we had to go and analyze a lot of different things. And it came down to the two people that we hired. And I am so grateful to have them right now. And I'm seeing, as I'm going through training with them in our business, I'm seeing the talents that they have. I'm seeing the abilities they have. The third day of work with one of these individuals, we had an individual that started going off. And instead of jumping in immediately and taking over and pushing this person to the side, I had to do what Burt Goldman had always said, which was to do the baga, which is putting the tip of your tongue to the roof of your mouth, to slow yourself down, to think about the thought that you're having, and to analyze. And so I've had to do that a lot lately, and it's fabulous. It's awesome. The big thing is remembering to do it. But I've done it in the last few days with people that I'm training because I'm really starting to try and get to know them. Well, this situation that we had was a person that became very upset over something that was very minor, and I allowed this brand new team member to use his talents that he has, his ability to listen, to respond, and to talk to this person. And because I allowed him to do that, I, as a leader, got to see some fabulous insights into him and his character and his abilities. He was able to take this person and bring them down, to get them to change their way they were talking, how they were analyzing the situation, and even getting this person to laugh with them, to talk to them, to go into more details. It was so awesome to watch as a leader. And then seeing this person going from one extreme to the other. And then when she left, to come up to him and say, "Thank you. Have a great day." Wow. I addressed that right then and there with this new team member. And I said, "Man, that was awesome. What you just did was incredible. You changed this whole situation, turned it around. What could have been a very volatile situation that could have gone a totally different way. You allowed her to vent. You then talked to her. You calmed her down. And by the time she left, she was your friend." And he just smiled and being able to give that person that recognition. And so that is one of the things that we as leaders have to take the time to do. We can't sit there and tell people, "I'm too busy," or give that perception to our team that we're too busy, that what they do doesn't matter. We need to recognize people and their talents. That's why they're working for us. We need to allow them to excel. We need to allow them to be able to do those things. And sometimes that's the hardest thing to do as a leader. Leaders, welcome to the Alliance Mastermind Group, your exclusive gateway to leadership excellence inspired by the visionary Napoleon Hill. In this mastermind, we believe leadership is about more than just titles. It's about realizing your dreams. So I want you to picture a close-knit community of leaders, each dedicated to helping you turn your visions into reality. You know, throughout history, mastermind groups have been the cornerstone of leadership success. Now it's your chance to become part of this legacy. The Alliance Mastermind Group is not just about support. It's about actively working together to ensure your leadership journey is extraordinary. Our comprehensive approach includes cutting-edge training sessions tailored to amplify your leadership skills. This is more than just a group. It's like having your own executive board invested in your progress and your success. Imagine having a team where each member is genuinely invested in seeing you achieve your goals. Are you ready to transform your leadership journey? Apply now using the link in the description of this video and secure your place among the chosen 10. The Alliance Mastermind Group, where leadership dreams are nurtured. Take the first step towards the future where your visions become reality. Your journey starts now. You know, a true leader does not focus first on trying to be liked, all right? A true leader focuses on the practices and the communications that lead to being respected as a leader. Part of that is showing people how to lead. Okay. I think sometimes we find people and we are so involved in wanting to build them into a leader that we ignore individuals that already have those traits, that we don't have to start from the ground up. We need to acknowledge those traits that they have so they can excel at that and allow them to have those opportunities. I have a friend that a lot of us that are leaders, you are a type A personality. And sometimes because of that, we have clashes between leaders, especially when you have executive leaders and you have line level leaders. Sometimes those clashes can occur. And I have a very good friend that would have been a very good executive leader in this organization that he was at. And because his immediate supervisor felt threatened by him and his talents, he ended up having to leave somewhere else. And now he's excelling at another business because of that. But my point in bringing that to you is that sometimes as a leader, we forget that maybe the person that we have on our team that we're leading could be the person that replaces me in this position, allowing me to go into a different position in management, a different position of leadership within the business. So instead of feeling threatened or tearing this person down or not acknowledging this individual or giving them the encouragement they need to continue to want to grow and to excel in that position, we ignore them. We don't give them that time so that they feel that they're not appreciated, and then they end up leaving. And then we stand back as a leader wondering why people leave. Like I said, in that account that I read, or on that article I read with Inc. magazine, it said that most people when they leave because of that lack of communication. And they said on average, people could sit there and say that when they talk to managers, it usually lasted maybe 2 to 3 minutes. And I thought about that, and there have been times where I've done that, where somebody's come to me and they said, "Hey, what do you think about this?" And then instead of taking the time to one, listen to the person and then analyzing that and be able to give them the feedback that they're looking for, I have told them, "I'm really busy right now," or "I've got this task that I'm doing right now. I'll get back to you," and then never do. And that's on me as a leader. That's on you as a leader. That is why we have people that leave. That's why we have people that do that. Now, not every person is going to leave just because of that. I understand that. And so do you. But I think if you sit back and you analyze it, you can see how by not acknowledging, not listening, not encouraging, or allowing people to grow, we contribute to their leaving our organizations or going somewhere else. We need to correct that. There are some steps that we can take as leaders in helping people in being able to understand the talent and the traits they bring to the table in helping us. And the first thing we have to do as leaders is we need to answer some questions that most often come up with these individuals. And that is, first, the truth as soon as you know it needs to be said. Okay. We need to acknowledge people, and we need to acknowledge truth statements from people and give them that opportunity of knowing that they're right. Okay. The other thing is a full and complete communication using whatever methods that you have of being quiet, not responding, but listening. And like what we said before, are you are you hearing them to respond to what they're saying? Or are you listening to them so that you're able to respond and give them the guidance and direction that they need? A lot of times that means not finishing their sentences, not interrupting them when they're talking. Those are when we still are going a million miles an hour up here with the 7 or 8 different tasks that we're supposed to be doing, and we're not giving our full attention to that individual. We need to stop that because it's very evident to these people that we're doing that. And they see that, even though that may not be the intent that we're wanting to do, they see that, and then that discourages them, and they shut down and they move on. So we also need to look at keeping our promises. And we mentioned that earlier in this podcast today, that we intentionally or not intentionally tell people, I'll get back to you or I'll do something, and then we never do. We need to keep our promises. If you don't have the time to be able to give the person what they need at that point, if you tell them, let me get back to you, you need to get back to them. You need to make a mental note, whether it's a notebook you carry around with you and you put it down your phone, putting a thing in there. It's going to take you about 10 seconds to look at that individual and say, I'm putting you down on my calendar that I need to get back to you, or I'm writing a note right now that I need to get back to you before the end of the day. Whatever that acknowledgement is, it's going to go a long way with that individual seeing that you're taking the time to do that. The other thing is that a leader can't be overly concerned with always being liked. Okay. Even knowing that you have to be willing to be uncomfortable, knowing that you're not going to be liked by everybody. Right. You as a leader, your main responsibility in these conversations and what you're doing with people is to be appropriate with them in your leadership role. You're not their friend. This isn't a friendship that we're dealing with. We're talking about a leadership position of helping people to be able to do the job that they've been assigned to do. And you're being paid to lead. You're being paid to give that guidance and direction. Totally different relationship at that point. Can you be friends with people? Absolutely. But you have to be able to separate that when you're at work. And it's a very difficult thing for a lot of people to do. There's talk, and we've talked about it before, where a brand new leader who worked with individuals and now is leading those people walks into a lunchroom, and people that they usually would go and sit down and have a good time and have great conversations. The minute they walk in, all of a sudden the conversations stop. Everybody kind of either finishes up their lunch and leaves, or they start doing something different because that individual came in, and now you're at a different level, and you are. Now you're a leader. You have a different tasks and responsibilities. But I think what we need to understand is that when we get into those positions, even as kind of uncomfortable as it is, we need to understand that we're looking at accountability, responsibility, helping them to transform their performances and how to be measured at the tasks that they do, and also manage the board business responsibilities that we've been given as a leader, the expectations that we're supposed to be upholding. So we need to be able to do that with these individuals and help them. But the big thing is integrity. When you tell people that you're going to do something, you've got to do it. If you don't, you're going to lose the respect and the fellowship of your team in following you as their leader. But if you follow through with your commitments, if you do make time to have those conversations, go and talk to people, even when they're not coming to you about issues or problems, take time for each one of the people on your team to go and sit with them for longer than 3 minutes. If we're going to ask people how they're doing, you need to be sincere about that. I, in fact, had a leader that he gave you what I call lip service. He would come up to you and he'd say, "Hey, how you doing?" And then you're starting to talk to this person, tell him how you're doing. And I looked at his face and his eyes, and he wasn't even looking at me. He was looking somewhere else. And so I made a crazy statement, something like, and the cat hit the dog, and the dog ate the cat, and the rest is history, to see what his reaction would be. And he goes, "Oh, that's great. I'll get back to you here in just a little bit. I got to go and do this over here." He did not hear a word I just said. And I used that as a learning opportunity for both him and I when he came back that day and asking him, "Did you hear how I ended our conversation?" And he couldn't remember. And so it was a great learning experience for both of us because I was able to help him understand that if you're going to approach somebody and you're going to ask them how they're doing, you need to be sincere about that. Because I knew that you were just trying to make small talk so you could move on and you're just trying to acknowledge me, which is fine. But if you truly want to know how I'm doing, then you need to truly take the time to do that and not just say something and move on. And that's what I'm encouraging you to do here is to take that time to go to everybody, take more than 3 minutes of somebody's time to just see how maybe they're doing, how they're doing with their tasks, how they're doing with their family. Is there something that they need help with? What can I do to better serve you and for you to better be able to provide the services that we need on our team? If we take the time to do that, we're going to start to see our teams grow, and you're going to start seeing a difference in how people respond to you as a leader because they're going to respect you because you're giving respect to them and you're trying to get that commitment, understanding, and to teach them what true leadership is and how it affects the whole team. I hope this is something that has been able to help you today and is giving you some ideas and some thoughts. And remember, the best way out is always through. And that was from Robert Frost and something that he said in his books that is pretty cool. So remember, one, how important your people are. Because if you didn't have people, you wouldn't be a leader and we wouldn't have a job and we wouldn't have the ability to affect lives and to produce the results that we need to be able to produce the products, the services that we provide to our clients and to our communities. So until next week, when we come up with another topic of discussion, or we have another guest that comes on to speak to us about leadership, remember to take time to analyze yourself, to give yourself the opportunity to grow and to be able to learn from those that you lead. Until next week, have a great day and take care.